That sounds like Greetings, Wanderer. This is Atlas here, and welcome to The Void. Today I'm going to be reacting and breaking down a song called Something Eroding from Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth original soundtrack. I must say firsthand that I know absolutely nothing about Digimon. I haven't even seen an episode from the animated series ever. Like not even a single scene from it. But yeah, this is going to be absolutely completely blind. I'm going into this, so I have no idea what's coming. This is an actual coffee request, and this comes from James. And James says, hello Atlas. The song that I have decided to pick for you is Something Eroding from Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. This pick of mine is sure to garner some attention in that the game has quite the fervent fan base, and I feel that this song is perhaps the most elaborate one in the whole game. I am not feeling super confident in my pick simply because I can't quite describe what is going on in it. But there is something about when the main body of the song comes in. The composer is doing something that just stimulates something in your brain. For me anyway. That just feels right, and you want to just vibe with it, while also kind of wanting to rock out. It feels almost golden ratio adjacent, where the pattern of notes in uses of ones and twos exclusively is trying to get at some kind of core principle of music or pattern or something. Perhaps you will be able to educate myself and your other fans as to what exactly is happening here that tickles one's brain the way it does mine. Be it some fundamental principle of musicology or maths or whatever it is that's going on, I myself do not have the language or expertise to adequately describe. You will know what I'm talking about when you hear it. I hope you end up liking it. Love your content, and all the best. Well, that is quite the description right there, James. So thank you very much for your request and of course your continuous amazing support. However, before I jump into reacting and breaking down this track, I want to make very, very clear that I don't do these kind of videos to educate people in any way, shape or form, okay? These are not educational videos. These videos are just for entertainment purposes. I think that if people, either musicians or just music fans in general, take something from the way I approach music and my insights into it, I think that's a wonderful thing. And if they decide to apply it in the way they write music or they perceive music as a listener, I am really glad that happens. But at the same time, I have to be very clear. I don't do this these videos to educate people. Okay. So this is just an opinion from a lad on the internet that happens to be, self-taught composer, writes music and so on and so forth. But I am not educating anybody in this regard, at least. No, this is just for entertainment, okay? So, with that said, onward. Okay, so we have Something Eroding from Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. Boom. Right? Very synthetic so far. This is very surprising. industrial EBM. The saturation in the synthesizers is very mean. Space created. Wow. The saturation in the synthesizers. This part is basically a metal riff, but in industrial form. Super piercing leads. That sounds like a that's a good arrangement. That was it? Yes, that was it. All right. This I did not expect. But I gotta say that it was quite a pleasant surprise. I was not expecting this to have a soundtrack like this, because maybe this is like a prejudice or of some sort that I had in regards to Digimon, because of the way the animated series are. They look very cute, and so on and so forth. So of course, not knowing anything about it and just based on the way the anime looks, I think Digimon is an anime, right? I for some reason in my mind I didn't associate basically an industrial EBM song to to that franchise like at all. But this is an absolute pleasant surprise. However, we're going to be talking more in depth about the saturation in the synthesizers and so on and so forth, for what purpose they are there, and also the genres involved in the track. The structure of the song is fairly simple, but at the same time it also serves a purpose. So we're going to be talking more in depth about those things in the breakdown and other things. So let's break it down. Okay, so let's start the breakdown by addressing some of the things that James said in his comment, okay? So first he said that the composer is doing something that just stimulates something in your brain that just feels right, and you want to just vibe with it while also kind of wanting to rock out. This has to do with two things specifically. The first one I would say is the tempo of the song. The tempo of the song is fairly to the lower mid-tempo kind of song, in which you get a solid groove of what the song is. So a big part into making that happen for the listener, of course, is the drum patterns, as he very well said, but also the electronic synthetic feel to it. It plays a big part of it also. It feels very percussive because the elements hit very hard and they have like bursts of presence in the song, let's say. The other thing is that to close that idea first, that's why you get this stimulating feeling in your head, in your brain, that just feels right, and you just want to vibe with it. And when he's talking about vibing with it, I think he means the rhythm of the song. And the rhythm of the song, in this particular case, is very much, in my opinion, given by the lower mid-tempo of the track, and also how the instruments, but also very specifically the drums in the song, the arrangement in the drums actually are the thing that crafts the most the groove of the song, so you can have that feeling of just vibing with it. Because when you vibe with a song, it means that the foundation of it creates creates like a basis in which there's not like a ton of things going on. As you can hear in the track, the drums are fairly easy in the way they are composed. Like there's not a lot of things going on. They are actually very open, and they are written and designed even to be like that, because you can hear that the foundation is actually giving the space for other very big abrasive instruments to be heard and shine and contribute to the track. But fairly, I would say that it's fairly accurate that what he says about the vibe, which is related to the rhythm and the groove of the song. And also he says wanting to rock out, which is it pertains to what I was saying in regards to the very saturated bass that we hear, which is basically the main section of the track. And I would even argue and dare to say that that's the like the leitmotif of a song, which is basically like a rock riff or a metal riff. I would even say, because of how saturated the bass is. It's an industrial metal riff. It's just the difference is that it's just played by a very saturated bass in the song. So you add the groove of a song by the reasons I already explained, and you add that a particular part of the composition, and it basically embodies what he's trying to say in this part of his comment. So talking about patterns to me is not necessarily like the pinpoint thing that I would focus in regards to what makes this song special. I mean, at least in my opinion. However, when I talk about the drums and the groove and the tempo and so on and so forth, of course, the patterns that are involved in the composition of the percussion of this track, of the drums, do play a role in it. So aside from what kind of patterns we hear or not, I would say that like I mentioned previously, the patterns that we hear in this track are open. There's a lot of space in between, you know, the bass drum and the snare and the hi-hats and everything. And if the hi-hats are playing, there's not a lot of things going on. You know, it's not very cramped. The drum patterns are not very cramped, and there's not a lot going on. And there's several purpose, because like I was mentioning before, these kind of patterns that are open for other things in the music to fill that void, let's say, quote unquote, pun intended. So yeah, to me, the most important part in regards to the patterns and so on and so forth is not so much what kind of patterns or what kind of metric or time signature is accommodating the notes. Is much more. I think it's way more interesting to me to think about it in the sense of how like what's the purpose of you writing that piece of music the way you did. It very much needs to do so, because as you can hear in the track, the synthesizers sound very massive. So imagine having these very piercing leads and this very massive saturated bass playing along a drum pattern that is very chaotic and so on and so forth. That could work too. It depends on what you want to achieve with the track, and we're going to be talking about that later, because there's electronic music that is super chaotic, and it certainly goes into those kind of realms in which there's a lot of how do you say it, audio slaughter, like overload of senses, right? But that's what the music is trying to achieve. But I'm not going to go into that tangent. I'm just saying that you can do that. It depends on what you're trying to evoke. In this case, the music is not going down that route, because it's trying to evoke something different that it pertains to the video game, because I believe this is a video game, right? So it's trying to evoke a different feel with the track being open and having this very allocated bursts of energy in terms of the music. Now, I want to talk about a very, kind of inconspicuous detail in the composition of this song, which is that there's a specific patch, a synthesizer patch that is used, that I've heard. It's almost like a default patch that you get in any synthesizer that you get, but I can't remember the name of it or what instrument is trying to emulate, because I think it's actually programmed after or based in the sound of an actual instrument. Okay, so I'm going to place a little bit of that here, and I will elaborate on that. Yeah, so you see, to me that sounds like a sort of a percussive hollow instrument, and it still sounds synthetic, but it sounds like this is not like it's like the synthetic version of a real life instrument. Okay, so I think it's interesting that the composer decided to play that pattern of notes with this kind of patch, because the rest of the song is more, it goes more towards the very synthetic industrial, very heavy, grimy kind of sound. But by having this synthesizer layer on top of it, that has this more organic sound, it creates a very interesting contrast in between the very heavy bass, saturated bass that we hear, and this more sweeter sound that this patch provides. Now I would like to talk about the genres that are involved in this track, because to me, essentially, this is an industrial slash EBM song, I would say, in general terms, yes. Super synthetic, super groovy also, but it also have some other elements that are not like entirely contained in those two genres. Because, for example, I had some sort of tribal drums feel in the main section of the track, and I'm talking about the drums in that part, of course. And also, it has these very breakcore transitions in between some parts of the song, the ones that are the most open, because you don't hear the abrasive bass sounding, but the sweeter sound of that patch that I was talking about, or it's just basically only the drums that you hear, which are, I think, still gravitate in the same realm, let's say, of the same kind of darker electronic music, or dark electro, if you will. But certainly, if you have like a bubble, a sphere, and inside of the sphere is where it's like the comfort zone where the track is. Some of those elements are trying to pinch the sphere from different angles. You know what I mean? So that what that actually means is that the composer is just trying to take some risks in terms of the composition, and trying to think out a little bit more outside of the box in terms of what is traditionally perceived from those genres, to make it more interesting, I would say. Now, finally, I would like to talk about how this could potentially contribute to the storytelling of whatever is going on in the video game. Industrial music, industrial EBM, aggro tech, dark electro, all these genres are very... I mean, the industrial is called industrial for a reason, and it's not going to blow your mind or anything, but industrial music sounds like industries, like very heavy industries, you know. There's a band, I don't know, I can't remember where they're from, but they're called Frontline Assembly, and they basically, you know, are an industrial rock, aggro tech, EBM kind of band. And they have the perfect name, because Frontline Assembly, it evokes like the assembly lines in an industry, in a big factory, right? So industrial as a genre, it evokes that kind of nastiness of an environment that is heavily mechanized and greasy and grimy, because the machines have been, you know, manufacturing thousands or even millions of the same thing over and over again. So you get the sense of these sounds that sound very same in the way they sound, but at the same time they have like this rhythm and this quality that sounds like a very heavy industrialized, not pun intended, but it is the way it is, sound. So, taking into consideration the very essence of what industrial is, I would say that this song plays a role in the video game in terms of where you play it, or how the characters involved are related to some sort of mechanized or robotic even kind of nature, because the franchise is called Digimon, right? So Digi, I suppose that comes from digital. I don't know. It's just a wild guess. But, you know, just for fun, let's say that Digimons are actually like manufactured, or let's say the plot in this part of the game, it's like they are manufacturing evil Digimons. I don't know. But if that's not like the plot, it certainly it could evoke like the level in which you are. It's about heavy factories and you know an assembly line or of some sorts. This is a very interesting quality of industrial electronic music, because other sorts of electronic music evoke some more feelings of, you know, cutting edge, bleeding edge technologies and so on and so forth. But that has like a drastically different sound than industrial music has. Industrial is very grimy, it's very nasty, it's very, as you can hear, abrasive, and that's the kind of the sounds that you hear in an assembly line. That's the kind of sounds that you hear in a very heavy factory industry, right? It's very abrasive. If you go to SpaceX, for example, not necessarily the assembly line of the rockets, but more of the surgical aspects of it, like the engineering and so on and so forth, then you wouldn't associate that kind of thing with this kind of sound. You would associate this kind of sound to the manufacturing of the rockets, not so much about the rockets going to space or the astronauts and all this premise. Apologies. That has like a different sound in your mind. I am guessing. So this is so totally different, and I think that it contributes, or could potentially contribute to some part of the video game in which is related to something like that, I guess. Or I could be completely wrong, and this was fun. Okay? So I think I'm gonna give this track a golden badge. I didn't really expect this track to be from Digimon, I have to be honest, but it's a really good track. I really enjoyed it, okay? So thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and share it with your friend. Also, please don't forget to visit my Patreon in case you want to sway the vote towards what I'm going to be breaking down next. Also, visit my Ko-fi profile in case you want to make a one-time contribution to the channel, or my Ko-fi store in case you're interested in one of these Ko-fi personal requests. Right now they are sold out, but I open new spots each first of every month at 1 p.m. EST. My Teespring shop in case you want merch and all that jazz. And of course, ex nihilo nihil fit.